Welcome back. Video I posted about some stuff I was doing in Tinkercad. Excuse me a second. Oh my, got a cold, sorry about that. Involved a redesign of the end bracket. Now, you'll remember this part here that I'm just going to take a moment to show the old one. Requires an upper bushing holder. It requires, come on, focus. Requires an upper bushing holder to be bolted on and attached to the lower part to hold the two pieces of aluminum channel. And for lack of a better term, we're going to say the channel points inwards. And it only gives me this much space, the space between these points, to pass the belt and move the carriage. And, you know, it's not too bad of a print, but it's a pretty complex print as far as design. Many things had to be taken into account to make sure it could print without supports, and yet it's two parts, and it aligns really well and slides really well, and that's great. But I was just sitting at work, had some time to kill, and I had a thought. I was looking at designs of the other 3D printers that you'll typically see that have a single place. Now you see I've still got that tiny bearing at the top because I've only got one of those spare right now. But this will hold two bearings or bushings, whatever you want to do. And it is built to work with the coupling nut that I'm using for my threading rod, whereas the old one needed a little piece of plastic in the middle to hold the coupling nut and then get attached. So we'll call that 3 parts to make that one work. This works with 1. See if I can do this here. It's a tight fit. So the coupling nut gets pressed in there, and I've got a hole on the side for an M3 screw. So I'm going to file a piece of the coupling nut flat. M3 screw is going to go in there and just basically bite into that hole and notch in the coupling nut and stop the coupling nut from coming in or out. Just most of the force is there's more the sorry there's be more friction to handle that. That'll just be to ensure. The other thing I made was a hole here. So I don't know how this is going to show up. I can't really see if it's focusing well. I hope it is. The hole here is an M3 hole, and it would allow me to put a washer that will go above this bearing and above that. So let's see if I got, well, this is not really a washer, but this will work. But for example, it would be just held down like a piece of metal that would just held down by the M3 and just cover the top of it, the coupling nut. Gravity will help it come down. There's no problem there. It's the lifting of it that might be an issue. So as you can see, you'd have your coupling rod and that'd be it. It's really simple. Obviously, I'm just going to pop this out right here. Obviously, we need to put the, let's take that out to ease our hole. We need to put the, focus now. I think that's focused. Not sure. We need to put the L channel in. If you see the L channels now point out, that gives tons of room for the belt and whatnot in there. And the carriage will now grab the outside, whether it uses the 4 bearing type for 8 bearings in total to grab, which is very, very secure, or whether it uses the 4 V-groove bearings. Either way, they're on the outside now. And as I'd mentioned, I'd run into issues with the fact that sometimes the L channel, even though I try to allot for tolerances, when putting the L channel in, you'll see that it's still quite still moves quite easily in the PLA. So what I've done is, see if I can get this to focus here. There's a hole right in the middle here that is M3, and when you get that lined up where you need to be, cut a slot in the top of your L channel near the end, and on the inside, don't know if we can see this here. You see down on here, I don't know if that's going to focus, maybe it will. There's a hole just in there so that you can have a nut on the inside, and you can put your M3 screw from the outside, and that will put clamping force. I can almost do it with my fingers there. Yeah. And that's going to hold the rod tight, lock it in. You'll notice at the bottom here, there's a little half crescent. You have to notch out the bottom of your L channel, or just not push it that far down, because these holes here, let me take that out. These holes here are designed to line up with the idler pulley and the motor mount. The other thing you'll notice here in the design, I think I mentioned this on the Tinkercad video, it's designed for you to fit your zip ties through just like that, and then allow you to put some tension on the bushings that are in there. And their pathways were done in Tinkercad, so it's really just that easy. And there's enough clearance between the stepper motor and the back of this for zip ties, no problem. There's about 1.5 millimeters. So again, in this design, zip tie just goes in there. So a lot of the things that were multiple parts in the old version down here is a simple single part up here. Really, that's all. Even the idler, even this part here, the idler pulley assembly, when I actually have printing the mirror of this downstairs now, that will just go right on the end of that. And I kept it modular, so it should be pretty easy to do. Again, much simpler. And I have to say, this came to me after watching, I don't know how many videos of all kinds of other printers, and trying to think of something that was the size that Fabricator Mini could print, because it had to be printable by Fabricator Mini. That's all I can print with right now. And function, and be pretty straightforward and easy to use. And I think this is much easier and stronger than this one. I learned a lot from this one. It proved a few things, and I still might go with that way just for fun, but the more I see it now that I've got these printed, I'm more likely going to keep this one around, try it one day maybe, but I'm probably going to go ahead with this version, mostly because, here, let me put this in again, so it becomes apparent. The V, the outside of the L channel is on the top. So I don't have a bearing up here, but this is where the bearing would run. The bearing runs on the top of this, and it gives you all this room on the inside. All this room here for figuring out how you're going to attach your belt and whatnot for the inside of the carriage. But also because you have this extra about, I'm going to say, almost 1.5 centimeters or more. Actually, it's almost a full 2 centimeters more. The tiny little bit of play that's in those little bearings is now spread out across, I'm almost going to say 4 centimeters instead of 2. So that tiny little play, say 1 millimeter of play over 40, is reduced versus, say, that 1 millimeter, or yeah, that 0.5 millimeter, actually, we'll say 0.5 millimeter play over 40 millimeters is considerably less than a 0.5 millimeter over 2. In fact, obviously, it's twice as less. Also, this one is way stronger. Like, I printed this, probably a bit overkill, but I printed it at 25% infill. And this is Flash Forge Dreamer plastic that was left over from a friend of mine, Mike. And it's still going. I think it's a ghost roll or something. I keep looking at the middle of the roll as it's printing down there, and I keep thinking, when am I going to hit the bottom of that roll? Because it looks like there shouldn't really be any more plastic on it, and yet I've gotten about another 10 or 15 prints off it. Let's just see something here. See if I can light this up any better. Yeah, no, I don't think, I think you could still see it just as well before. I think that flood is a little bit too bright. Yeah, just put that to the side. But, yeah, it's quite simplified. Another thing would be, I don't have one handy, but nothing stopping you from, if anybody wants this file, from going in, editing the STL file to remove the L-channel aluminum and change it to whatever you want. That could be 8mm round bar, just like this. There's no reason why you couldn't make that hold 2 8mm bars, and it would be very much like a standard 3D printer, like you see all the other kind of rep wrap type things that are out there. Anyhow, a little bit longer winded than I intended, but that's the update, and I'm calling it version 2, even though it might essentially be still the alpha, still the first version. I think this is going to be easier for people to print. It prints with no supports, minimal cleaning, and in fact, the video, if you watch the time lapse, you'll see there is no support. All there is a brim that goes around the bottom. That's it. So, okay, so there's a couple things here. You can see artifact and not having a support, but most all the arches and stuff are fine, and a little wisp like that is, I can almost get that out with a fingernail. But anyhow, so that's that, and I'm gonna rearrange, I think, to see how this goes, and when I get the other one printed, I'll reassemble these bits with that, and I think it's gonna make the actual X carriage itself a lot easier to make. And of course, because this is one piece and that is two pieces, somebody else printing this, there's a potential for alignment, an issue of alignment. For this one, all you got to do is align your bushings, and it's automatically in line. That's it, perfectly in line. And yeah, as I mentioned, that's a fresh bushing there, so it's still a little bit stiff, but when lubricated, this is going to be awesome. Anyhow, if you have any questions or whatnot, put them down below. I will get to them eventually. If you like, don't forget to like, subscribe. Lets me know if you like these crazy things, and helps keep me, I'm not going to say keeping me doing them, because I'm still going to be doing crazy things. It just helps in me realizing that there's a point of putting them up on YouTube, for lack of a better term. So anyhow, thanks a lot for those that have commented and offered suggestions in the past. And I'm trying to work on the microphone, trying to work on the positioning of this mic, and possibly need a sound reflector or something. Hopefully this is recording me better this time. And yep, so hit that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.